Hi kids, I'm here with another Bible story. Last story we talked about food from heaven, where the Israelites were had God had freed them from the Egyptians from being enslaved, and they was wandering the desert trying to find the land of Canaan that God was giving to them, and they didn't have no food, so God provided food for them from heaven every day. So they had quail to eat, and they had bread, and He made water for them come out of the rock when Moses hid it, and different places. So God took care of them in the desert for the whole 40 years, every day. They didn't have to worry about going to hunt food or nothing. God provided it for them. So today you're going to hear the story of God speaking from the mountain. And of course the mountain is what, do any of you know what the famous mountain is that God spoke to Moses on? When you hear about Moses in a mountain, now you can always say because that mountain is Mount Sinai. So when you hear somebody talking about Moses went up to the mountain, what mountain was that? It's Mount Sinai. Now you guys know, and if somebody asks, you already know it. So see how a quick lesson that was today. You learned something already. We're going to start out with a Bible verse like always, and it is still the second book of the Bible, because that's where we talk about Moses, in the second book of the Bible in Exodus. It's right after Genesis, and you'll look for chapter 19, verse 9. And it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever." Depending on what Bible you're looking at, if you're following along in a Bible, for the Bible verses, the words may vary slightly because different translations in the Bible, like the New King James Version, the New International Version, Common English Bible, they're all just worded slightly different, but they're all basically saying the same thing. It's just slightly worded, different. So the words might not match up exactly to what it is in this book. But as you can tell, if you read it in the Bible, it's saying the same thing. So let's begin the story. After 3 months in the wilderness, camping in several places, the Israelites came to the foot of Mount Sinai. Here they pitched their tents and made a more permanent camp where they could stay for a while. Moses looked fondly around the mountain, for it was nearby that he first talked with God in the burning bush. It was nearly impossible to believe that he had led the Israelites safely out of Egypt since he had last been here. Then the voice of God spoke to Moses from the mountain. "These people are a treasure to me. I am going to make them a holy nation. Tell them to clean themselves and wash their clothes and prepare their minds, for in 3 days they are going to see my glory on this mountain. Make a line around the mountain so that no person or animal will cross it and touch the mountain while I am here." God's people did as they were told, and they were waiting and praying when the 3rd day arrived. They suddenly saw lightning and heard loud thunder from the mountain. A large cloud settled on the very top. Smoke began pouring forth as though it were on fire, and the whole mountain shook. A sound of trumpets came louder and louder until the people grabbed one another in fear before God. Then out of the cloud came the voice of God, announcing himself so that all could hear. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, which means from being slaves. Then he gave them the rules they were to follow as his people. These rules, known as, remember, do you guys know what the rules are that God gave Moses and the Israelites to follow? The 10 Commandments. So if you've ever heard about the 10 Commandments, these are all true stories that I read to you guys out of this Bible Stories book. By the way, in case you didn't know, they're all true stories. And if you ever hear anybody talking about the 10 Commandments, now you will know how they were made. God made them for Moses on the mountain, and you'll see that in just a minute. And here's the laws, the rules that God wanted his people to follow, that he wants all of us to follow as his children. The first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me, or I am the one true God, the one you must worship. You are supposed to have no other God except for God, the maker of heaven and earth, our Father himself. Do not worship anyone else. Only God is to be worshipped. The devil will try to trick you many times in your life and try to get you to turn away from God, but you need to stay strong. And trust me, you will be well rewarded in the end when you come home to heaven. The second commandment, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or you must not worship idols or gods made by men. Which means like when the Israelites made a golden calf to worship, saying that was their God. That means stuff like that. Again, worshiping something else or someone else besides God himself. Commandment 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, or you must not speak or think lightly of the Lord. Just like when some people say, they get mad and they say the GD word. That is, I hate that more than anything. Taking the Lord's name in vain, talking bad about the Lord. That is the one word I cannot stand. We are not supposed to do that. Be just like talking to your own father that way, because God is our Father, and we are supposed to honor our mother and father. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, or you must rest and worship the Lord on the seventh day, which our Sabbath days are on Sunday. We're supposed to rest on Sunday and not do any work. Honor thy father and thy mother, or love and obey thy parents. Thou shalt not kill, or you must not take the life of any person. Do not kill anyone. Thou shalt not commit adultery, or husbands and wives must love and be faithful to one another. If you get married, don't cheat on your husband, or don't cheat on your wife. Thou shalt not steal. Do not steal anything from anyone. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, or tell a lie about anyone. Do not tell a lie about someone to get them in trouble just because you don't like them and you want to hurt them. Thou shalt not covet, or you must not want something that is not yours. Don't be jealous of your friends or family of stuff that they have that you don't. God don't want you to be jealous of others. You're supposed to be happy for them. Even if they're not your favorite person, you should still be happy for them. After God had given these rules and his voice had died away, the people were still afraid. They said to Moses, hang on a second. Show you guys the picture there of Moses with the tablets. The tablets were written in stone. God wrote the 10 Commandments on stone and gave them to Moses. God God speak to you, Moses, and you tell us what he says, for we fear his voice. He came to you this way in order for you to know his power and be afraid to obey him, Moses explained. Excuse me for just a minute. Moses explained. Then taking only Aaron's sons, 70 of the wisest and oldest Israelites, and his special helper Joshua, Moses began to climb the mountain, Mount Sinai. After they got far enough up to see a little of the glory of God, Aaron and his sons and the elders went back down to the camp. Only Joshua and Moses continued climbing higher. At last, Moses left Joshua on the side of the mountain and disappeared into the cloud that covered the top. For 40 days and nights he stayed with God alone on Mount Sinai. God gave him many other rules for the Israelites to follow. Most of them told how they should treat one another and how they should worship him. He also gave Moses 2 tablets of stone on which he had written the 10 Commandments. The people had not expected Moses to be gone so long, so they began to think that he was not coming back. They begged Aaron to make them a god they could see. So Aaron took the gold jewelry that they gave him, melted it, and shaped it into a golden calf, which is a little cow. The Israelites were pleased with the idol, and they declared a holiday and began worshiping it with songs and games, the way they had seen the Egyptians do. Just what they were not supposed to do. Worship an idol or anything else besides God. They were worshiping to a golden cow. Just a statue. While Moses and Joshua were coming down the mountain, they heard the cries of the people dancing and singing around the golden calf. When they caught sight of the camp, Moses became so angry and discouraged that he threw down the tablets of stone on which the 10 Commandments were written, and they broke into tiny little pieces. The Israelites were punished for having disobeyed God's second commandment so soon. Those who started the calf worship were killed, and Moses took the golden calf and broke it into pieces. Then he ground it into a fine powder, mixed it with water, and made the people drink some of it as part of their punishment. But Moses loved these people that he had brought from Egypt, and he went back up to the mountain to ask God to give them another chance. God did forgive them and wrote the commandments again on new tablets of stone. Moses stayed with him for another 40 days and talked with him as a friend, closer than any other man ever did. When he came down from the mountain, his face was shining from having been so close to God. It was so radiant and bright that he had to put a cloth over it when he talked with the people. And that's where our story ends today, of the 10 Commandments. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story, tonight's story. I hope you guys learned something from it. If you guys learned something from it and you enjoyed the story, please give this video a like so I know that you guys are liking these videos and learning a little something about the Bible. It's what I'm hoping to do. And I will continue to read stories to you guys. And I hope you enjoy them. Bye guys. God bless.